Okay, I've put a lot more time than is probably necessary into asking what kind of clothing a female adventurer would use. I know a lot of people will say something like just use men's clothes, and while that works, I do think we can get more stylish, feminine, and even practical about this. And I have. So let's do this. First of all, let's just admit something. The farther you go back in history, the more expensive garments are going to be. This is because the techniques to manufacture them were more labor and time intensive the farther back we go. It was normal. It was also normal for all the garments of the household to be made by the women of the house. They would do a lot by hand, especially before the spinning wheel was invented. You had to you had to spin wool with a tool, but a hand tool, not yeah, it was very different. I could get more into it, but I wanted to establish that people just having clothing lying around that they don't use is unlikely to happen unless they are very wealthy. Whatever garments a person wears, they intend to wear them as long as they can. This might be why we see women's clothing diverge so sharply. It was the expectation, if not desire, of most women to get married and have children as soon as they could. The dress a woman wears when her beloved proposes could be the same dress she is later heavily pregnant in and later nurses in. She needs to accommodate all of this, and, and this is the normal path for women. Historically, even though many women would end up spinsters, they wouldn't necessarily start wearing trousers. That's just very that's just very rare. I I don't know of a lot of I don't think I can recall any example except maybe Joan of Arc in a very specific situation. And I'm not an historian though. I could even be wrong about that. But anyway, with that context out of the way, men's clothing is actually pretty practical for adventuring. It was downright designed for it. Trousers are thought to have been made to make horsemanship easier. The traditional expectation is often that if something dangerous or strenuous needs to be done, the man is the one to do it. So if a woman wants to do this strenuous, dangerous work of adventuring, then wearing men's clothing is to her benefit, particularly if it's made to fit her. That said, I'm not satisfying with just saying men's clothing and leaving it at that. After a bit of research and asking around, I've devised a method of clothing a female adventurer that remains feminine and practical. Okay, my initial idea was to give an adventuring woman a normal dress with a shorter hem, probably halfway down the lower leg, with trousers underneath. The hem was also going to be adjustable in width. That way, her mobility isn't impeded when she needs to ride a horse or walk through a close forest. A couple of things people pointed out are that it would be harder to relieve oneself in that getup. So I thought to add a drop seat, like on long underwear. I kind of wonder how many knights would appreciate having a drop seat in battle. She would be lightly armored, only on the sword arm and the head, since she would have a shield. I had the idea from Living Anachronisms video on barbarian armor and how it works practically. This, this later developed into a different system to accommodate full plate armor. It starts with an undershirt, then riding breeches, probably with a drop seat. Then comes a short bodice over the chest. Apparently, the bust has a tendency to move on its own, and while it can be bound in place while wearing men's clothing, I went for something else. The next part is a skirt that that the woman can wear or not, given the circumstances. The main reason for a skirt is that most men will be more they'll be unaccustomed to seeing a woman without a skirt, and that could be distracting and kind of send the wrong message. Yeah, it's part modesty, part fashion, whatever you want to say, but yeah, they're not trying to reset social norms or anything. They're not trying to fight that. They're trying to fight. They're trying to fight orcs or something. But yeah, the next layer is an arming gambeson, so they can put full plate armor. Yeah, the kit can easily be worn with between battles or have plate armor added to it. The skirt can be worn over the leg armor or removed if she wants to, you know. Is this the definitive women's kit? No. The first one assumes a professional adventurer, and this one assumes a knightly role. Inevitably, a woman's kit is dependent on her circumstances. How much money or time can she afford to put into it? Is appearing womanly a priority? Ugh. Is she even going to be a fighter or ride horses? Whatever clothing she has is hers, so I think it's fine if we tailor it to the character we want to portray rather than resort to any stock response. One thing I hadn't considered is the idea, not consider this as much, is the idea of the woman girding up her skirt. If you've heard the phrase girding your loins, it comes from a time and place that didn't have pants, but what some might call robes. The length of the robe is a problem when you're doing something strenuous like fighting. So they would gather up the skirt of the robe and bind it to their belt. A woman could do something similar, but I imagine most women during such times wouldn't like showing off that much leg around men. And a lot of men. That said, a lot of the factors I mentioned remain no matter what you do. Availability of clothing, the nature of the terrain, the mobility of the bust, societal definitions of modesty, relieving oneself, and more will still be present no matter what her other circumstances are. So keep those in mind when deciding her kit. Next up, women's armor.